desperate for your presence, longing to be with you. Lead me to a new place, more of you.
Good morning, Suncoast. It's good to be here with you guys. Unexplainable grace in every single breath, inescapable love, guiding every step. Like gravity, you're pulling me in. The great migration of my heart, it's calling me home. It calls me over and over and over again. How could I ever fight? Why would I try? And over and over and over again. Well, I hear your spirit calling. Why would I fight? The great migration of my heart, it's calling me home. Uncontainable life beating in my chest, undeniable peace, bringing me to rest. Well, like gravity, you're pulling me in. The great migration of my heart, it calls me over and over and over again. How could I ever fight? Why would I try?
Say the word and there is light. Say the word and dead bones rise. Every star and hangs on your voice. For your word never returns void. Written in a billion skies, speaking to this heart of mine. All that I am with all creation
Oh, with battered boots and shallow roots, nothing held me still. Just scattered pursuits of myself without you is what I want, still part of your will. I lean into all my wants and wishes, lean into my thoughts and wildest dreams, holding on to all my heart's desires in this reckless pursuit of me. In every single line, like casting shadows, seem to read these words I often think, holding my own breath till my heart expires. Is this the place I long to reach? In this reckless pursuit of me. Oh, I lean in. Oh, I lean in. Trembling for line inside my hunger, led me further from satisfied. But this grace that you are still shines through my heart as I stand in this divine. There's a light out in the distance, a voice that carries far. Well, I'm in all of the stars, you're in all of my heart, knowing both still shine in the dark. I lean into all my wants and wishes, I lean into my thoughts and wildest dreams, holding on to all my heart's desires in this reckless pursuit of me. And every single line, like casting shadows, seem to read these words I often think, holding my own breath till my heart expires. Is this the place I long to reach? Oh, in this reckless pursuit of me. Oh, I lean in. Oh, I lean in. Oh, I lean in. In your boundlessness, you found this mess, you saw me here within it. The same road I walk is a road you run to welcome me home again. Maybe the space that I made was to measure your grace, still it stretches out beyond to every faded heart in the worlds they part. You shine away home again. And as my tears fall, my fears fail, your love still stands to hold. And every doubt weighed against love's embrace is broken, leaning to hold. And as your love lives to carry on, the light will shine through every dawn to reach the ones who reach beyond and learn to lean into into all your wants and wishes. I lean into the thoughts of wildest dreams, holding on to all the heart's desire. All my life you leaned into me. Everything together, watched it shatter. I'm stood tall and I have crumbled in the same breath. I have wrestled and I have trembled towards surrender. Felt hard and drifted on again. The blessings, and I've been desperate to find redemption. Every time I turn around, Lord, you're still there. And I was found before I was lost, and I was yours before I was not. To spare all my mistakes, and that part just wrecks me. No, I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add up to be somebody you so want. Somehow you love me as you find. Faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful. Think you don't need a single thing, and yet you want my heart. And I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was not. Grace to spare for all my mistakes, but that part just wrecks me. No, I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add to be somebody you so want. Somehow you love me as you find me. You love me as you find. Your love so much for singing out with us. Enjoy the rest of the service.
Good morning. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Larry Baucom, the pastor at Suncoast. In case you missed me, I've not been around a lot, but I'm going to be here the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I want to say publicly thank you to Troy for doing an excellent job speaking last week. So appreciate the team that we have, Brett and Troy and I. We try the best we can to deliver as we can. But today's an interesting day. It's July 3rd. We celebrate the 4th of July here tomorrow, right? But a lot of people are starting today. I'm patriotic. I believe that America's the greatest place to be. I've been to 50 different countries, and when I come home, I think this is the best place. And I know we have our issues in our country, right? But it's still okay. Just I appreciate the country that we live in, and I'm grateful. Today, I want to shout out to some people who are watching this online. If you're watching it locally, thank you for watching it, but get your butts in here. So just... It's okay to watch. So you miss some energy when you're not here. But also to those people, I was texting a few people. Some are in northern Georgia. I think of Wayne and Annette Dawkey, your friends of mine that are watching this today. They always watch it. And I think of, some are in Michigan, some are in Indiana, some are up in, some are on the West Coast. There's some people that watch this in England on a regular basis. So we appreciate all those. I was in Walgreens just last week, and a lady came to me, and she said, "Are you Pastor Larry?" I said, "Yes." I said, "I'm so sorry, I don't know your name." She said, "You don't know me, but I watch you every week on stream, online." And she said, "I just appreciate what you do." So I'm grateful for that. Today also is not the 4th, it's the 3rd. So this date has significance to me because 100 years ago today, my father was born. He's been gone for 30 years, but anyways, my brother, as Eddie James Baucom is my dad, and I have a brother, Eddie James Baucom Jr., both of them born, believe it or not, on the same day. And both are gone, they're with God now, but my dad's been gone for 30-something years, but if he were alive today, he'd be 100. If my brother were alive today, he'd be 72. My sister, who's younger than me, said, and she's watching this, she said, "Well, you're the next oldest male. I've lost 2 older brothers and a father." She said, "You're the next one to go. But we want you to know." And I looked at her. Of course, she's a year younger than me. You know how that goes when you're just 1 year younger? And she's my younger sister that can take it. I said, "Look, I want you to know I'm in better shape than any of my siblings. Number 1, I'm going to outlive all of you. Number 2, I already have written all your funerals." And I said, "You know what the bad news is?" She said, "What?" I said, "My mother will be attending mine. My mother will be 96 years old this month, and she's still alive, and she's going strong, full of spunk." And that's where, if I have any spunk, I'll probably get it from her. So thanks, Mom, for that. So today, we're in the summer at the lake. These are practical teachings of Jesus around the lake of Tiberias. It's called the Lake Gennesaret. It's also called the Sea of Galilee. This is a place where Nazareth is just about 10 miles from there, 8 miles from the sea. So when Jesus grew up, probably he knew all about the lake. He probably knew the fishermen at the lake. They probably were in some kind of connection school together, maybe. But I've been there 6 times. And I showed pictures before a couple of weeks ago. If some of you have been there, we've taken over 100 people to Israel. Becky and I have. She's been 4 times. And the last 2 trips, just alone from Suncoast, there was 35 on each trip. And people keep asking me, "When are you going to do this again?" a year from January of 24, if you have any interest at all, that card in your hand, put your name, email, phone number, whatever, and write Israel. You're not obligated to anything. We'll just put you on the list and give you information about it when it comes up, because when we go, it'll be a fantastic trip that I'll be able to lead, and it'll be my joy. When I go to Israel, people say, why do you want to go back? You know, when you're a kid, Christmas was about opening the gifts, right? What'd you get? You're just excited. But when you get to be a parent, you don't really care about the gifts, but what you do is you buy your kids gifts, and you love to see them open the gifts because their eyes just explode. When I go to Israel, I get to be the parent at Christmas. I get to see you walking where Jesus walked, and my heart sings because you've experienced some connections with God that you've never had before. So if you're interested in that, we appreciate you signing up for it. It's about $3,500 for about 8 days, to give you some round numbers. So anyway, that includes everything. So the first week, when we looked at the summer at the lake, we talked about following Jesus. Follow me. Jesus challenged his disciples, leave your nets and come and follow me. The second week, we talked about weathering the storms. The storms are going to come. When they do, we wake Jesus up because we're frantic, but really what he's saying is, I'm always in the boat of your life, and when the storm comes, trust me. Last week, we listened to Dr. Doucet, Pastor Troy, talked to us about what do you do when you get wet? When you're Peter, you're getting in the water, and you're walking on the water, and then all of a sudden you're down, you're wet. When you get wet, then what? And if you want to watch that, all these are online. You can watch any one of them. Today, I want to talk to you about feeding the 5,000. Being Christ followers means being part of a community that's practical. Everyday needs of the people are important to us, and we do that in many ways at Suncoast. We help people who are taking the bus or walking on a car. We change the oil in cars once a month. Just a couple things. We distribute gift cards at Christmas time. We help the Safe Child's Coalition have the kids have backpacks. But the word is getting out. And it's amazing how many cars the oil has changed, and how many cars we're able to give away, and how many cars are coming back to us in a variety of ways. There was one company that just gave us the ability to buy equivalent of one car for many months, and we appreciate that so significantly. This week, I got a check in the mail from a guy that I went on a trip with 2 years ago, never been here. I met him on the trip. He called about 3 or 4 months ago and said, hey, tell me what you do. And I told him, and he serves on the board of a nonprofit foundation, and they share, for his service, they give to one of his charities. We got to be the charity that he gave to because of the car donation. So I got a check this week for $13,000 just because I know a guy and I can't keep my mouth shut. So it works pretty good. So it's wonderful when that kind of thing happens. Sharing is the key ingredient to the miracle of provision. Have you ever heard of family-style dining? Sure you have. Sometimes we get our meal, don't touch my food, but sometimes when it's family-style, you just dish it out and everyone shares. It reminds me of picnics. And how many of us like to go to picnics? Many of us. Have you been to a picnic recently? Ooh, that's a challenge. Some of you go, no, it's been a long time. This summer, just a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, my family and I were in North Carolina, and we had 2 family picnics, packed up everything on the pontoon boat that we rented, went out in the middle of the lake, and we shared a picnic just like we did now we're with our grandkids, when our children were young, when Becky's parents were alive. We loved to have a picnic on the lake. So I did a little research. According to Google, the largest picnic ever was in Lisbon, Portugal. On June 20, 2009, 22,232 people attended a picnic. That's a picnic. I mean, now the largest picnic depends on largest, but if you go by how much food was served, the prize for the biggest picnic ever goes to a town in Fancy Farm, Kentucky. They grilled and barbecued every year, but back in 2000, they grilled up a record 18,000 pounds of meat. Now here's what's amazing. There's only 500 people in town. These people really eat. No, but the truth is, they opened their doors and people came from miles around. Thousands of people came to the community for this big event. So they shared what they had. So here's the biblical story. It's found in Mark chapter 6. The apostle gathered around Jesus and reported to him all that they had done and taught. Then because so many people were coming and going that they didn't even have a chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed, he saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them. And if you've been to Israel, you could see how if you were in the boat, people could see you in the boat and they could follow around the shore toward where you were. Because they were like sheep without a shepherd, so he began teaching them many things. And by this time, it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. "This is a remote place," they said, "and it's already very late. Send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." That's pretty good advice. But he answered, "You give them something to eat." And they said, "That would take more than a half year's wages. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? How many loaves do you have?" he asked them. "Go and see." When they found out, they said, 5 loaves, 2 fish. Then Jesus directed them to have the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and 50s. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of the men who had eaten was 5,000. You know, it's an amazing thing as we look at this whole thing. I mean, 8 months' wages. But Jesus fed such a huge group that day. 5,000 was a head count of the men that got fed. Who knows how many women and children got fed that day as well. So it was a huge picnic. But this picnic is not just remembered because of its size. It's remembered because so many people were fed. It was a miracle. Jesus takes 5 loaves, 2 fish, and turns it into enough for thousands and then some left over. Turning 5 loaves and 2 fish to feed those people was really something. But it seems that Jesus was teaching his followers about meeting the needs of people. You know, I love this story because it's the miracle of provision. The question many scholars ask, and I ask, is where did the food come from? And the story, the miracle of provision, feeding the 5,000, is the only miracle recorded in all 4 of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In John, it's the boy who brings the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. But somehow, the bread and fish multiplied and fed the thousands. That's the miracle. The miracle is they didn't have enough, and somehow they were fed. The miracle reinforces Jesus' teaching to his disciples. He's teaching them that following him is always incomplete without a response here and now to the practical needs of others. Jesus wanted to make sure that his disciples and his followers cared for people like he cared for people, because apparently they had some misconceptions about what it meant to be a Christ follower when it came to helping people. And I think as we examine this, as I look at this, I go, boy, I think I've had some of those same misconceptions. So here's the first possibility for us to understand today. It's in your notes. Following Jesus is more than intellectual truth. It seems as if the disciples thought, if we've done the teaching part, which is what it says in the first few verses, we've done our part. Jesus is teaching that we have to live out his teaching to others. The disciples had just come back to him and said, hey, we've done all we need to do. We've taught all the people about you, and the teaching's been well received. The people are flooding to Jesus. People are hanging on his every word. Before you know it, it's late in the day. And dinner time comes for all these people. And then the disciples think, like I do, and like you do, when it comes to our jobs, that dinner time is quitting time. Sometimes you stop and you have to eat. And I need to stop working so I can eat. The people had been taught, the teaching had been successful, many have been healed, our work is over for the day. So they tell Jesus, hey, send the people away into the countryside so they can get something to eat. And I think that's fantastic. That's common sense, something I would have said, you would have said, just makes sense. But then he responds in a way that has me scratch my head. He says, he has a different idea. He says, you feed them. You know what the first answer I would have had is? What? How? I mean, the question is, why did Jesus see feeding people as the disciples' job when the disciples didn't see it that way? Maybe it's because they didn't even see it as possible. But I think it's even more. I think the disciples are thinking about the teaching business of Jesus. They had the teaching part, and we're through. You know, when it comes to church, sometimes we think the teaching part is all there is, and we're through. It's a lot easier for us to teach you and you to go out and do what you want to do. And go out and do what you need to do. You come in here, you need to have a need. We want to help you have an enlightenment or maybe have an experience. But when it comes to what it means to be the church, I think often we're just like Jesus's disciples when it comes to being on the lake and just saying, isn't this enough? We think that mainly our teaching is about spiritual stuff, learning about God, learning about Jesus. How about singing songs and prayers? Hopefully, songs that are cool and prayers that are short. We often think that when it comes to church, church is mainly about teaching people about God and Jesus. We can also think that being Christ followers is mainly about us learning and learning and learning about who God is. Folks, I spent my whole life in the one category, learning and learning and learning. In another story, Jesus tells us the difference between the ones who love God and the ones who do not. It's not just about learning all the intellectual truth. Jesus says at one point, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was homeless and you gave me room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to visit me. And he says the same thing in reverse. If you don't love me, I was hungry, you didn't give me food or drink. I was homeless, you gave me no bed. I was shivering, you gave me no clothes. Sick and in prison, you never visited me. And Jesus says these words, whenever you did not do or did do one of these things to the least of these, you did it to me. The point is, if we ignore people, we're missing the key ingredient following Christ. Jesus was saying it's important to care for the needs of people, saying that we should not separate the love of God from loving people. The more real the love for God is, the more our hearts are open to others. Now, when that happens, there's some pain that comes in. And this week, I've had a few phone calls where, some connections in our church have passed away. One of the ladies, that's gone, Jeannie, she's connected with us for many years. Another, Diane, who was here just a few weeks ago, she passed away. These people who die, and I hear about it, and honestly, it hurts my heart. I'm honest with you, I wish I did not know, because I go through this pain. I try to categorize and put it together, but it still hurts when I feel that people in my community, or even people I don't know, hurt. I saw, getting my haircut this week, I saw on her phone about a naked guy on I-75 this week. Did you see that? At Fruitville Road, if you didn't see it, I don't recommend you look for it. An old white heavy guy in traffic in the rain on I-75 Fruitville Road. The traffic stopped, and I don't know, but he got on the back of a semi and he's riding down the semi. And you just let that laugh, and I think that's just funny. It's ridiculous. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the back of I'd rather see the back, but I don't want to see the back of some naked white guy, or even come think of it, black guy. Doesn't matter. Naked. But then I begin to go, what's going on in his mind? Something's not right. He's hurting. He's disturbed. And all of a sudden, just this wave of emotion of what do I know to help people like that? What is he going through that would do that? That's just not normal. See, the more important God is to us, it seems like the more our heart is open to others. And the more I pray, oh God, and I prayed this years ago, give me a heart of compassion. I found that by having my heart broken repeatedly, because I really do love people. The story tells us that, according to the disciples, all that really matters is just become a little more spiritual. And Jesus turns it on them and says, guys, it's not just the spiritual truths that matter. They're hungry. Let's meet their needs. And we need to get this. Jesus was driven by the desire to meet the needs of the people around him. He didn't just want to be unbalanced in meeting their needs. He didn't want to just teach them. And it's not just about meeting their social needs, but it's about their spiritual needs as well. It's a both and. It's never either or. But it leads me to the second thought. It's this. The miracle of provision begins with sharing. Now, I love this statement. God does not want me to give what I don't have. Fair enough? I have a friend of mine who's a good close friend, and now he's told me this 10 times, plays the lottery regularly. When I win the lottery, I'm going to pay off your church mortgage. And I said, that's great. I tease him a little bit because he's a really close friend. I said, but you don't have the proceeds from the lottery. You're promised that which you do not have. God does not want me to be a good steward of that which I don't have. And it goes back to the story. There was a woman in the courtyard, and she put in her 2 pennies. And he said, see that? She's given more than all of you combined. It's not about what you don't have, it's what you do have. Are we faithful? That Jesus said, you feed them. And they said, we don't have enough. And I'm sure the disciples took a quick estimate. Probably Judas, or a tax collector, was in the group. CPA, accountant. They're going, 5,000. It's going to take 8 months' wages just to buy them bread. We don't have that kind of resource. We can't do that. We can't. And when they said they can't, they're buying into another misconception. A misconception that many Christ followers buy into is when it comes to meeting the needs of the world. I just don't have what it takes. I don't do more because I don't have it. How often have you heard someone say, if I had $1 million, I would give it away to charity? We say what we do if we had $1 million. But here's what I want you to hear. God doesn't want you to be responsible for what you don't have. He's only asking you to be faithful with the 2 cents you do have. Because I think the key to touching the lives of other people is based on what we do have, our resource. That's what Jesus meant when he said, you feed them. And when they said they couldn't, he asked a simple question. We can't. Then what do you have? You don't have enough to get it done. What do you have? And once they brought out what they had, what they didn't have, they said, what do you have? And they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. I love this teaching because there's a point in my life was changed with this teaching. God does not want what I have. He wants to use what I do have. Most of you know that I have a little more than an extreme red-green deficiency, according to my doctor. What does that mean? I'm colorblind. Oh, you're completely colorblind? No. I'm the most color-smart person you've ever met because I know what color should be worn and what shouldn't. But do I see red? No. Do I see green? No. That's crazy. I don't see red, but I can tell you're wearing a red shirt. How's that? Well, then you're not really colorblind. Well, trust me. I played golf with red golf balls, and they've been in the green grass and can't see them. At darts as a kid, red darts in the green grass, I can't see them. My wife is so kind to me. She's ever caring about the whole thing. But usually people come to me and they want to play a game. Oh, you can't see what color is this, what color is this, what color is this. And I'm okay with that. I just don't see it. I don't think that my gift of not seeing colors is a blessing to me in some areas. For example, you don't want me to pick your carpet. You don't want me to pick the color of your clothes. You don't want me to help with your furniture selection or the color. But I have lived without seeing, I see about 5% of red and green that you do. But listen to me very carefully. I'm okay with that. I don't know any better. See, I don't think that my gift to others is the gift of color selection. I'm no good at it. Now, here's what I could do. I could spend all my life whining, I don't see red, I don't see green. I wish I could see the way you do. That never comes out of my mouth. Why? Because I don't feel that way. What I do is I celebrate life and realize that what I do have is enough. And all that I have is available to God. One of the gifts that I do have, and maybe it's a compensation for colorblindness, is the gift of joy. I have the gift of laughter. I am cynical. I'm sarcastic. I've got a smart mouth. I had 8 brothers and sisters, and man, I'm just used to throwing that stuff out. Pete knows this. He sits beside me in group, and I hear it from him too. But you know, sometimes we need to laugh a little more. And when I'm getting in a situation where people are taking themselves so seriously, often I make a joke because I think, lighten it up a little bit. Life doesn't have to be this serious all the time. We need to see the joy in life, not in this life, but also in the life to come. So Jesus took what they did have, and he met the needs. I think Christ has taken what I do have and has used it for him. Christ wants to take what you have. Well, Pastor, I don't have what you have. I don't have the resources you have. I don't have, you don't. But what you do have is your gift from God. And here's the problem. Just use it. Be pleasant. Use it. Do not focus on what you don't have. Focus on what you do have. I wondered what it looked like to Jesus to see, I wonder what it would look like for the disciples to see Jesus multiplying the 5 loaves into food for 5,000. But we really shouldn't focus just on the miracle. The point is, we're to take whatever we have and place it in God's hands to feed the hungry. God wants us to faithfully, consistently give him what we have, no matter how small it is, and watch what he can do with it. So there's a story. I don't know if it's true, but it's a story of a wealthy man who went to his home church. He'd not been in there for years, and he came back and he stood there and saw the church and saw some of the older people he knew and realized what an impact this church had made on his life. And he stood up and said, I want to say something to this congregation. Don't try that here. And he stood up and said, when I was a young man, I came here and I didn't have any resource. I didn't have any money. He said, but I felt compelled of God to give everything I had, and all the money I had was $2. And I put $2 in the offering, everything I had. And today I want you to know God has blessed me. I have over $1 million in the bank. And it all started because I gave my all to God. And he sat back down. This little lady sat beside him. She leaned over and she said, I dare you to do it again. So I mean, always somebody there to challenge us just to give a little bit more or do a little more. But when our focus is on how little we have to make a difference, we cut God out of the process. It doesn't matter what we have, whether or not we let God use it or bless it is what's important. So come back to what we do practically at Suncoast. You know, we do a lot of things. And I focus on cars and car wash because that's what I'm in mostly. But you ever given away a car? Somebody say, no. You ever given it to a person? Probably not. But maybe you've given one to the church, you've donated one. But how about one car? No. What about 30 cars? Absolutely not. I don't think there's anybody here that's given away 30 cars. How about 150 cars in the last 5 years? No. Let me tell you, you did. You just didn't realize it. Some of you have been responsible for that. Put your one used car in God's hands and see what happens. We buy cars. We give cars away because we think we're trying to meet the needs of people trying to get to work. When you tell me a single mom who has 2 kids and she's taking 2 buses and has her kids in daycare and trying to get to where she works at Whole Foods, and it takes her an extra 2 hours a day to just make the transportation deal, and we offer her a car free, it changes her world. I've seen tears flow from a grandmother's face who did not have a vehicle to bring her kids to school. They were Ubering their kids here to school. We were able to get a car for them. I've seen it happen just many, many times. We're making a difference in our community by what we do have. So in community, sharing, people's needs are met. God can take what we have and do more than we can even imagine. It's just how he loves to do things. And the last truth is this. We are continually challenged to meet the needs of those around us. Jesus said, you feed them. They said, we can't, not with what we have. What's really interesting, in most Bible stories, there's little captions above a paragraph, and most of the time the caption is, Jesus feeds the 5,000. I think that caption could be better. And it should be something like this. Jesus didn't really feed the 5,000. He challenged the people to share. And it should be provision, 5,000 are fed, or the multiplication of resources. Amazing things begin to happen when people share. Jesus' followers did the feeding. Why? Why do you think he had the disciples pass out the food? Obviously, if he'd wanted to, he could have said, hey guys, sit down in 50s and 100s, whatever, and wave his hand, and there'd been a Chick-fil-A bag float down into every picnic blanket all across the place. Or maybe something else, any kind of food, fast food for 15 or 20, boom. He began the process of sharing. And we're going to talk more about this in a few months when we talk about the 7 signs in the Gospel of John. We're just getting started. But if you look at the journey of the disciples in this short time, it's pretty amazing. They wonder, how in the world are we going to feed 5,000? That 5,000 are fed, plus women and children, and they have 12 basketfuls left over. That's what Jesus wanted them to know, and it's why it's in all the Gospels. What God can do through us as we begin to be obedient to him. See, I know the needs around us can be overwhelming. Some of us have needs in our lives, needs of our families, our friends, our community. Some of the needs are created by the latest local or even global issue. It's easy to feel overwhelmed at the prospect of really doing something significant. But when I realize that maybe I'm just like that boy who brought 5 loaves and 2 fish, my willingness to give can change the world. People's needs are met. God's dream is that his people would be an unstoppable force to the world. And that's the teaching of Jesus. It's living, breathing love, God, of the love of God to this world. So where does it begin? It begins with your lunch and my lunch in his hands. Can I pray for you? Father, in a moment like this, some of us come in, we've got plenty. Some of us don't have as much, and we see needs around us that need to be met, but we simply ask you, Father, to open our eyes to the wisdom of God, open our eyes to the love of those around us. Help us to realize our small portion connected with another small portion, and another small portion becomes an abundance, and people's needs begin to be met. May the Spirit of Christ be ours today. In us and through us, we pray. In Christ's name, amen. Would you stand, please? I'm going to tell you a story in closing. Becky and I have always thought the importance of family vacation, and in our lifetime, every year we try to take a vacation. And one of the trips when our kids were young, I think Ryan was 5, Stacy was 8, and Laura was 10. We're on a car vacation, and car vacations are, tough sometimes when you have little kids, just say least. But, we'd stop for gas and get a snack. One of the deals when we'd stop, okay, you guys go in and get a snack, whatever your favorite snack is. And each kid gets one treat, gum or mints usually. Ryan would go for the bubble tape, the big string it out. He wanted the bubble tape. Stacy, who was 8, got a huge pack of that big red cinnamon gum. And Laura got a pack of her favorite gum. So they all get back in the car. We're traveling up the road. And all of a sudden, when she opens that cinnamon flavored gum, the bubble tape, I don't care about. The other gum I couldn't smell, but that cinnamon gum, you could smell it. And I'm just smelling the car and go, wow, that smells pretty good. And I basically said, hey, can I have a piece of your gum? Dad, it's my gum. I only have one pack. And I said, well, where'd you get the gum? Who paid for the gum? And this is where the 10-year-old sister jumps in. She said, Stacy, if you ever want to get more gum, you better give it to him. And we're going to stop again, and every time we stop, he's going to buy you something. And if you don't buy for him, he's not going to buy for you. And there's many stops. Just think about it. She then said, 8 years old, Dad, would you like a piece of my gum? I said, sure. She shared it, and I ate the cinnamon gum, and it was a wonderful thing. And we stopped to keep getting all the treats. But this is what I want to remind you of. There are many places ahead for God to bless you again and again. But how many pieces of gum are in your pack? How many are you sharing? How many have you put in God's hands? Try it. You'll be glad you did. He loves you today. So do I. God bless. Thank you.